do I become the best version of me? Raised by certain degrees, it's taking blurting disease. Cause I spit anti-establishment. This is battleship, I'm calling your number and letter. And I only do it to make you better. Negative mindsets just won't let up. And I'm constantly battling my predecessors, cause I get too fed up. But the same when the same brings pain. Locks and chains reduce the potential of human brains. I'm too insane. At least it's what they label me. I'd rather be labeled as crazy than stuck in the matrix. I got Asia chasing cause I'm making these statements. I'm participating in the emancipation of a nation under interrogation. See my determination as you turn in these pages. I will never ever be degraded. They want me to dumb it down and say the industry ain't ready for too pure of a sound, for too pure of a heart, for too much empathy. I will give it all till I empty me. This is my manifest destiny. Preferably dropping bombs over melodies. You feel it heavily, you're telling me. Watch out. But it brings a resistance. Please don't miss this. Consequence vicious. We need to destroy the traumas. Go back and heal for a better tomorrow. Face the pain that you want to avoid. Stick out your chest and raise up your voice. I will not bend. I will not break. Stand in my place and I won't be swayed. Mark my words, lives will be saved. And even after I die, my legacy will remain. My emotions running amok, I'm out of luck. What the flying flip is going on? I say I'm a king, but I'm showing porn. My logic feels intoxicated. No love left cause my heart's been raided. Feeling jaded, want me medicated. Feeling like a fish cause I'm hooked and baited. And I can't find peace. I become my own worst enemy. Sipping Hennessy, feeling dead in me. If my pain were a woman, gotta let her free. Let it go. But she's holding on with a grip of death. The pain gets worse with every breath. I just wanna keep you in the dark so low. You feel it in your soul. Never see the light of day. You say, yeah, I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I don't like who I become. What have I done? I'm going numb, ain't having fun. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. Crazy is as crazy does. I catch myself trying to flirt with Lady Luck, but she just curves me. I'm worried, vision's blurry, feeling like death's coming early. You never get rid of me, even when you say that you're getting sick of me. Painted so vividly, making you sickening, feeling with misery, burning like Listerine. I spit on your grave, I'm taking control until you misbehave. The pain comes in waves, today I'm a slave. A trophy to gain, I'll put you on display. And laugh at your misfortune, laughing at your tears pouring, laughing at attempts of ignoring. Pieces foreign, the more you fight, the more you let me more in. This can't be life. Doc, help me out, I can no longer fight. I'm crying uncontrollably, I need a hold of me. What's life supposed to be? And I'm feeling suicidal. All my rivals got me quitting on survival. My heart needs to mend. I don't wanna kill myself, just want the pain to end. But this feels like an uphill battle. I see your misery with a broken paddle. I've journaled, have addictions. There's a hole in me cause something's missing. I'm in prison, in my mind. Gotta hear what's been left behind. EMDR, whatever it takes. If I don't see change, I swear I'm gonna break. I just wanna keep you in the dark so low. You feel it in your soul. Never see the light of day. You say, yeah, I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I don't like who I become. What have I done? I'm going numb, ain't having fun. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. Keep hope alive. 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 Watch you do my work. Working hard to achieve my dreams, it's harder than it seems. Watch you do my work. Sky's the limit, gotta hit it till you fit it, revel in it. Watch you do my work. Hungry for change to have my name known, cause I say so while the days go. Watch you do my work. Cause I stand for a purpose. Watch you work this, cause I'm worth it. Watch you do my work. Watch you working harder than the evidence. Spitting from the hearts of people that feeling irrelevant. Spitting for the hell of it, embracing all the elements. Music, having content that'll challenge your intelligence. This ain't for the faint to the heart. Mature folks thinking that I'm way too smart. Too mature for my age, wanna put me in the grave. But no need a safe face, cause I'm running my race. Running my race, even overweight. But you see me overweight, cause I'm stealing off your plate. And I'm feeling so great, even though I make mistakes. Do whatever it takes to make winning the Mason race. But you would never bury me. Talking bad about the man is like heresy. Or fire like kerosene, apparently my words are like therapy. Watch you do my work. Working hard to achieve my dreams, it's harder than it seems. Watch you do my work. Sky's the limit, gotta hit it till you fit it, revel in it. Watch you do my work. Hungry for change to have my name known, cause I say so while the days go. Watch you do my work. Cause I stand for a purpose. Watch you work this, cause I'm worth it. Watch you do my work. I don't look like a rapper, what they look like, what they sound like, why they sound right. I'm too busy cruising in my lane, I don't need to buy fame. And this is why I came to put in work in the hearts of man. There's nothing harder than I like a martyr can. Watch you do my work, watch you do it well. Been through hell and I'm telling a story that's so compelling. It's got me screaming and yelling, negative is a repellent. And ain't no dreams I'm selling, cause it gets so numb I'm rebelling. I work hard, you can tell, full of heart, raising hell. Cause you're gonna see me rock this scene like prophecy on a lock and key. It's gotta be something to write home about, cause I work with pride, I got a fire inside. Watch you do my work. Working hard to achieve my dreams, it's harder than it seems. Watch you do my work. Sky's the limit, gotta hit it till you fit it, revel in it. Watch you do my work. Hungry for change to have my name known, cause I say so while the days go. Watch you do my work. Cause I stand for a purpose. Watch you work this, cause I'm worth it. Watch you do my work. Work, work, work. Watch you do my work. Work, work. Watch you put in that work, work, work. Watch you do my in that work, work, work. Watch you do my work, work, work. Watch you put in that work, work, work. Watch you do my work, work, work. Watch you do my work. Working hard to achieve my dreams, it's harder than it seems. Watch you do my work. Sky's the limit, gotta hit it till you fit it, revel in it. Watch you do my work. Hungry for change to have my name known, cause I say so while the days go. Watch you do my work. Cause I stand for a purpose. Watch you work this, cause I'm worth it. Watch you do my work. Working hard to achieve my dreams, it's harder than it seems. Watch you do my work. Sky's the limit, gotta hit it till you fit it, revel in it. Watch you do my work. Hungry for change to have my name known, cause I say so while the days go. Watch you do my work. Cause I stand for a purpose. Watch you work this, cause I'm worth it. Watch you do my work. Work, work, work. Watch you do my work, work, work. Watch you put in that work, work, work. Watch you do my work, work, work. Watch you put in that. There's a problem in the industry. You probably didn't think too many people would be into me. You want carbon copies? Well, I'm sorry to disappoint. It's a breaking point. Words so absurd that I'm breaking joints. Who's this brother in a suit jacket think he is? Don't he know that rappers ain't taking this serious? It's all about making hits, lyrics to the side, humility. Hey, folks, welcome to Therapy Thursdays. I'm really happy that you're here. I am your host, Marcus Alexander Velasquez, and I'm very happy that you guys are here today. Therapy Thursdays is where we bring the therapist to you. This is a beautiful program where we talk about all things therapy related, mental health related, but we actually have real discussions with real pros. These are licensed professional therapists that are volunteering their time to come onto the show to teach us actual credible information regarding therapy. Therapy is a wonderful tool. I myself have gone to therapy on and off for about 6 to 7 years, grown tremendously to the point where I created the show and want the information out there because it is such an amazing and powerful tool. Unfortunately, there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to therapy. People are either they just have the wrong education, the wrong knowledge about it. They saw it misrepresented somewhere, particularly media, or they have misconceptions about it, or you don't know anything. You're in the right place. We're happy that you're here. Therapy Thursdays is a place where we can be ourselves. We can be weak. We can be honest. There's no judgment here. We come here to learn. We come here to grow, to mature, to better ourselves. So if you're here, welcome. I'm very happy that you're here. And we are here every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We are booked right now till at least December, which I'm very happy about that. Very grateful that all these therapists that are our guests believe in the vision and are willing to donate their time for the cause. It's a beautiful thing. One of the greatest things about this avenue and this show is that when we broadcast live on YouTube, there is a live chat underneath the video on YouTube that you're able to use and submit questions and comments either about the topic at hand today, which actually we're talking about ADD and ADHD, or anything mental health related. You can submit your questions and our guest therapist will answer them to the best of their ability. But it's a beautiful avenue. Please take advantage of this information. More importantly than just attending and watching, please utilize this information. This show in itself is not therapy. I repeat, this show is not therapy, but it is meant to give you a taste of formal therapy, to inspire you to want to seek out professional therapy for yourself. If you click in the description underneath this video, there is a link that will bring up an online spreadsheet that has all the contact information for every single one of our guest therapists. You'll be able to reach out to them through phone, email, find out where their practice is located, and if they have any specialties, how much they charge, what types of insurance they take. Literally everything is there. Please utilize that resource because it's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to walk the walk. And although we talk a lot about therapy here in the show, the purpose is to walk the walk. So please utilize this show, utilize the information, utilize the resources for yourself because you're going to benefit from it, obviously, and all your relationships in your life will be better off for it too. And if we can work on ourselves, we work on our relationships, that has a ripple effect all throughout society because we are society at the end of the day. So if we're the only ones we can control, let's control ourselves to the best of our ability. So thank you again for being here. I want to go through our disclaimer real quick. This show is for informational purposes only. You are completely responsible for what you do with the information presented, and myself and all of our guests cannot be held liable for any misuse or misunderstanding of the information presented. Please always consult a trained mental health professional before making any decisions regarding treatment of yourself and others. Awesome. So I'm going to bring on our guest for the day. She actually came on board last minute, which I'm really appreciative for her being here because it was a last minute replacement. The guest that we had today had some stuff going on personally, so she thankfully submitted a replacement and she's here. So we're really excited. The topic at hand today, again, is ADD, ADHD. I will be honest, I know very little about it. Obviously, I've heard the term thrown out there a lot. But what's cool about hearing from a licensed professional who specializes in these things is we get the real credible information and we get to know what ADD and ADHD is like from a real professional who does this on the daily. So please help me to welcome our guest therapist for the day. Her name is Fiza Zadi. Fiza, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. How are you today?
I am doing well. Yes. Ready to get started.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks again for being here. If you can do me a favor and do us a favor, please, would you mind giving us a short history and a little background of who you are, how long you've been in practice, if you have any particular specialties, and my favorite question to ask, what inspired you or got you interested in becoming a therapist in the first place?
Absolutely. My name is Fiza Zaidi, and I originally was going into arts and fine arts and became an animator for quite a while.
Awesome.
And after a while, it was done serving my purpose, and I think I needed a bigger challenge. So I decided to do a career shift and go back to school to become a therapist. I have been in practice for over 4 years, and I am an LPC, fully trained and licensed therapist. The reason I decided to go into this particular field was kind of more almost organic, because I was always the friend that people went to and had these big conversations, and I was always very interested in trying to figure out what is actually happening and talking to them. And I can remember as a kid always wanting to have a couch where I can talk to people. So
Awesome.
glad something fitted.
Very cool. Awesome. Great. Are you in practice by yourself, or are you a part of a team?
Oh, I actually just launched my solo practice, so I am in practice.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Very cool. Great. Well, we're going to get into today's topic. Again, if you are watching us live on YouTube, welcome. Please utilize the live chat feature as much as you like. Submit questions, submit comments. We would love to answer them to the best of our ability. So first and foremost, Fiza, I want to make sure we always define our terms appropriately. So if you can do us the favor, please, and give us a formal definition of ADD and ADHD.
Great question. So I'm going to utilize the definition that is given to us by the DSM, Diagnostic Statistical Manual. And ADHD is described as a persistent pattern of inattention and or hyperactivity, impulsivity that interferes with functioning or development. With that being said, us practitioners in the ADHD world have a little bit of an issue with this definition.
Oh, please do tell.
So it identifies it as a persistent pattern of inattention and hyperactivity, impulsivity, and it's labeled as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. There isn't a deficit in attention, there is deficit in regulating attention. And that is very important, because people confuse, I can focus. And yeah, so can people with ADHD. It's regulating the attention, regulating the emotions, regulating the hyperactivity. That is the challenge.
Very cool. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. So again, I know a lot of people have heard ADD, ADHD. So we would like to know the specifics when it comes to symptoms. So what are some of the symptoms of a person with ADD or ADHD?
So there are actually 3 different types of ADHD. There is an inattentive type, there is a hyperactive type, and there is a combined type where you have both hyperactive and inattention. And they're both kind of inattention and hyperactivity are broken up into 9 criterias. And for children, they have to meet at least 6 of them. And for adults, they have to meet at least 5 of them. Wow. And for inattention, it's poor memory, lack of organization, missing fine details, misplacing things, not having a follow through on things. A lot of things that are actually in tune with executive functioning.
Okay.
And the hyperactivity part of it has a lot to do with exactly that hyperactivity, impulsivity. This is a person who cannot sit still. This is the person who is tapping their foot or clicking their pen all the time. Lines are not a thing that they like to stand in. They will not be asking for permission. They'll be like, I'll be taking this pen from you. I'm just going to take it. And they will not be asking you, can I borrow this pen from you? So it's this somatic bodily urge, and it feels the need to keep going. And that is the hyperactivity part. So going back to inability to regulate, you are not able to regulate that intensity.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I want to make sure that we don't interchange or use these words interchangeably, because I know that there are differences between ADD and ADHD. So can you let us know the differences and similarities between the two?
Actually, ADD is no longer a term that is utilized. It was the terminology, but they have switched it to ADHD to contain the hyperactivity component as well. Because, like I said, there are 3 types. So there's inattention, hyperactivity, and combined. And ADD is outdated at this point, and it's largely referred to as ADHD.
Good to know. Thank you so much for that. Great. Okay, so all my questions going forward, I won't mention ADD anymore. I'll just ADHD. Thanks for teaching me. That's why one of the reasons I love hosting the show. I get to learn so much. Very cool. Okay, well, my next question is, how does a person get diagnosed with ADHD?
Yeah, good question. Several ways, actually. Straightforward way is to have an assessment done. That would involve going to either a neuropsychologist or a psychologist that does assessments. It is a commitment because it's a long, arduous process. You're looking at about 8 hours of testing.
Wow.
Yeah, sitting down and talk about not having attention. That is pretty cruel.
Wow.
But that is also not entirely necessary. At times it depends on your doctor. You can go to your psychiatrist, talk about the symptoms. They can give you an assessment for your family members to fill out, and if they feel comfortable with that information, you do not have to go and do a formal assessment. A lot of the assessments for kids are usually done in school, and having something formally written out for you is helpful because this is the report you will be taking to the testing agencies for school or college for accommodation. And that's the report you would give to your HR department for accommodation for work.
Okay.
But in order to get diagnosed, you would either go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist who does assessments. I myself would tell my clients, hey, this is very much ADHD, and I will diagnose you with it. However, I would like you to go get this tested out to make sure that this is being actually presented as ADHD and not something else.
Okay, great. You mentioned assessment a few times. Can you let us know a little bit about what an assessment looks like and what takes place during it?
Yeah, absolutely. There are going to be various different exercises and tests that are done. And the classic example where people are like, I'm actually very good at taking tests, and this is not that kind of test. There are tests that are measuring your memory, your attention span, the ability to be able to remember shapes, spatial, visual memory. It's a lot of odd challenges that are happening. You're also given an IQ test, and this is where a lot of people get hung up on, but that is not necessarily the key for this. They're trying to check all the various components that are happening for you and see how you are performing in the different executive functioning skills.
Very cool. And you said this takes 8 hours on average?
It can. Sometimes people split them. Yeah, it's a commitment.
All right. Yeah, that's 8 out of even. I don't think personally I have ADHD, but I don't know if I could sit still and take a test for 8 hours.
Exactly. It's not really fair to people who already have a difficult time regulating that.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow. That's good to know. So you mentioned that you want to make sure certain clients take the assessment just to make sure they actually have ADHD, so that they don't have anything else. So are there situations where people may think that they have ADHD, but they really do have something else? And if so, what are some of the possibilities of the other things that they could have?
This is actually a really good question. And this is something that is to consider no matter what the diagnosis is out there. And this is what we will call, there's a lot of symptom overlap that's happening. So, difficulty concentrating, for example, right? That is a criteria for ADHD, inattentive. However, you also have difficulty concentrating if you're depressed. You also have difficulty concentrating when you're anxious. You also have difficulty concentrating if there's trauma or you have PTSD. So sometimes those things show up as ADHD, but are trauma related or depression related or anxiety related.
Wow.
It is always a possibility that there's a comorbidity, meaning both of them exist. You have depression and ADHD.
Wow.
But it is important this is why having an assessment done is very important, so they can see what all is happening. Because if somebody has PTSD, they're going to be heightened in their emotions. That is to be expected. That doesn't mean that they have a tough time regulating their emotions.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, you brought up a good point that I want to tap into, which was having professionals assess you. And I think, the internet obviously is a double-edged sword. It has beautiful things. It's a great tool. But, some people look up their symptoms on WebMD and think they're dying that day. So this is why it's great and this is a great example of why we need to seek out licensed professional therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, people who have studied, people who are accredited, that can actually help us in this thing. This is their field of expertise. We want to be able to trust the pros instead of self-diagnosing ourselves just because we read a couple of articles online and we think, oh, that's it. This is what I have, and I am ADHD. And I even remember years ago taking some kind of test online. It was like a free test you could take. And the event, me, my father, and my brother all took it. We all got like the same scores. So we all convinced ourselves we all have ADD now. So that's great. Based off this one test we found online. So that's just a good point for those who are watching and are obsessed with WebMD or think that, just reading a couple articles will let you know who you are. Please seek out the professionals. Let the professionals do their job. Let them diagnose you appropriately, and let them give you strategies, tips, and everything you need to move about your healing journey. Please do not just rely on yourself. Please seek out the pros.
I would actually just like to add,
Sure.
There has been no pun intended, but a high tick on the TikToks with ADHD. And a lot of people are coming in with a lot of false information from TikToks because, again, those symptoms seem like I forget my keys all the time. Maybe I have ADHD, and it's not vetted information. So I know as a therapist, I have been seeing a lot of clients coming with that being a primary complaint.
Wow.
And that is also difficult when somebody is coming and has ADHD. But you're right. It is important to go and get vetted information and go to a professional for getting diagnosis.
Absolutely. That's a great point. You can utilize TikTok for your life hacks, for food recipes, but not for therapy. So again, I want to use this show to educate as much as possible, because I know there are a lot of misconceptions out there. So can you let us know what are some of the misconceptions you often hear when it comes to ADHD?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest misconceptions, I cannot have ADHD. I did well in school. And that has nothing to do with ADHD. As a matter of fact, you have the ADHD students who are actually the ones who are studying and trying really, really hard to try to get the material. It does not have anything to do, there's no correlation with ADHD and intelligence, either having superior or inferior intelligence. There is none.
Great to know.
Then there is, well, I can't have ADHD because I'm not the kid who was climbing chairs and trees all the time. I remember that kid, but that was me. And this is why largely a lot of women are underdiagnosed, because there's a higher component of inattention. And that is, they may appear like they are completely focused, paying attention, but their mind is in like 10 different places at the same time.
Wow.
They're not listening, or they're looking at you but thinking about something else. They're hearing something else and talking about something else. And girls don't get believed that they have ADHD. They have different pressures on them to maintain certain personas, which is then having them work extra hard to make sure that they can do that. And therefore, it doesn't get suspected as much.
Wow, that's good to know. It's sad, but good to know.
Yeah.
Wow. Anytime I've heard of ADHD, it's almost always, at least in my experience, synonymous with children. But I'm sure that that's not the only group of humans that deal with it. So is ADHD, does it always show up or start in childhood, or can it manifest in adulthood as well?
So it's a neurodevelopmental disorder, meaning your brain is developing into a neurodiverse direction. It will start in childhood, and it will those children become adults. So yes, it will continue on into adulthood in that capacity. Again, people get either missed completely, and then they get diagnosed as an adult. And then there is that, oh, I have adult ADHD. But it's very much neurodevelopmental. Your brain has been going in that direction for a while now. So yes, and it's prominent in children because there are a lot of eyes on the kids. They have the home life, they have the school life, they have the peer life, and the comparison between the kids is a lot more obvious in that situation.
Okay. You mentioned earlier about regulating, that's really the main focus when it comes to ADHD. Does the regulation, or is it when it comes to the therapeutic process with this, is it more powerful or more potent the earlier you catch a child with ADHD symptoms?
Earlier, more potent as in helping out with it? Or,
yeah,
yes.
Like helping the earlier you catch it.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Yes, you're developing habits, you're developing mindsets, and you're actually training your brain to start developing in a direction where it's working on those executive dysfunctions that otherwise will just get exacerbated. You're also learning how to work with yourself, which is the primary thing, is to learning how to work with yourself.
Great. I love it. Again, just want to remind everyone that please utilize the live chat function to submit any questions, comments, concerns. We would love to hear them. We had Alvin and the Pit Monks chime in saying he was tapping in. So Alvin, we appreciate you watching. Thanks for being here. So yeah, please don't be shy, guys. We would love to talk to you. So yeah, can we discuss some of the treatment methods and if there are different treatment methods between children and adults?
So there are two main forms of treatment method. There is medication, and then there is talk therapy, but there are different types of therapies within the behavioral therapy outlook. You have biofeedback, neurofeedback, you have talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapies. And if you have comorbid, meaning existing with the ADHD, other symptomologies and other diagnoses, right? It's also trying to incorporate that. I myself am EMDR trained, and EMDR stands for eye movement desensitizing and reprocessing. It's largely used for trauma processing. And it is very difficult to say the following, but it's hard for me to find an ADHD individual who does not have some form of trauma with them.
Wow.
And it's very true, because if you're growing up in a neurotypical world and you're neurodiverse and you feel less than, you feel bullied, you are told that you're lazy, you're told that you're not trying hard enough, or why don't you just sit down, or you're always a pest. There is a lot of damage that's happening to the self-esteem and self-image.
Wow. So that's interesting. So based on that information, is ADHD something you're born with, or it's a response to trauma?
Oh, a very good question. So it's largely genetic. However, environmental factors can also affect in developing ADHD. So remember, your brain is developing since you're a little one till about 25, 26, some say 30 years old. And if you're growing in an environment where there is no stability, you're growing in an environment where you're constantly moving, or you're not sure where the next thing is coming, you're hypervigilant all the time, you are supposed to be heightened in your emotions to be able to protect yourself. So you're kind of going in that direction of starting to develop your brain in that way.
Okay. Awesome. Can you let us know a little bit about the actual treatment methods and how they're different for children and adults, or if they are the same?
So largely they are the same, actually. With kids, there is a lot more coaching, executive functioning coaching, which is amazing and should be utilized by adults and children and ADHD and non-ADHD individuals, because we all have executive functioning skills. These are the skills that are being able to organize, being able to keep time management, goal orientation, emotion regulation, response inhibition, being able to, known as metacognition, being aware of yourself and being aware of others. And these are all executive functioning skills that we are all housed with. They largely reside in the prefrontal cortex, and there is more executive dysfunction in an ADHD brain than there is in the neurotypical brain. Dysfunction doesn't mean bad or wrong or incorrect or negative in any way. I hear the word dysfunction and the mind immediately goes to something's wrong.
Right.
I always like to switch it as the word ability. So I'm right-handed and I can write, listen to you, do multitask at the same time. But if I was to use my left hand, I would have a dysfunction in being able to do those tasks. I would have to slow down. I would have to do things a lot carefully, and it still might not look the same as it does with the right hand. So it's important to recognize that, going back to the word regulation, it is not a bad or a good thing. It is just different.
Yeah, that's a great distinction. Thank you for sharing that. You mentioned earlier about medication. So you said the two main treatment methods are medication and or talk therapy. So what role does medication play with an ADHD or a person with ADHD? Is there more like talk therapy at first till you get to the point where you realize they need medication? For some people, is medication the first thing that you do with them? So like, what role does medication play with ADHD?
So for a well-rounded success, it is a combination of the medication and therapy of some type. And therapy doesn't necessarily have to be just talk therapy. Like I said, it could be cognitive behavioral therapy, it could be biofeedback, anything that is helping you, or executive functioning coaching, anything that's helping you work with your skills. And medication is making up for the chemical imbalance that is happening. Your brain is underproducing dopamine. Norepinephrine is something that is different for your brain, and this is what medication does. It just regulates it for you and helps make the tasks that are difficult more doable. That's about it.
That makes a lot of sense. Are there ever people who have ADHD that are not medicated?
Oh, absolutely. And I impress this with my clients all the time, is that you don't have to be medicated with ADHD. It's just really harder not to be.
Yeah.
I work primarily with adults, and a lot of my adults are getting diagnosed now in their life. And I have to remind them, look, you have graduated school, you have finished college, you are a full-fledged responsible adult. You did that all without medication, but it was very difficult. You had to work twice as hard. You had to dedicate a lot of energy, and that is the big difference, is that you can still sustain a life. It's just more effort.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Absolutely. Obviously, we advocate for therapy here on this show. It's called Therapy Thursdays. So, as a therapist who deals with a lot of ADHD patients, and based on your experience, what role does a therapist play in the life of a person with ADHD?
The same role that a therapist plays with everybody else, a big support system, a place where you have the safety to be your authentic self and not be judged.
Mm.
I am largely, my whole motto is that my entire job is to figure out how things work for you and how to make things refocus in your direction. So it's not about comparing to another person, but what is it that you need to succeed for yourself?
That's great. That's awesome. Again, if you guys have any questions or comments, please type it in the chat. We would love to get to it. So I guess this is something that I thought of when preparing the questions for today's episode, because, we talk about different things like anxiety and depression, and we use the word healing, like these are things you heal from. So is ADHD something that can be healed from, or does it stay with the person for their entire life and they just learn to mitigate their symptoms?
It's a very good question. The word heal is, it's making it sound like it's a wound, and it's not. It's not an infliction. So healing from it, there's a very, very tiny percentage of people who do outgrow ADHD.
Wow.
But that's a very tiny, and they may have smaller symptoms to begin with in the first place. And again, this is catching it early, working on a lot of those executive dysfunctions, and basically training your brain to keep developing in a neurotypical fashion, right? But that's it's more rare than it is common. So to answer that question, yes, you can outgrow it. As far as healing from it, you are a perfectly normal person and you will be perfectly fine.
I love that. Thank you so much. That's a great, that was a great clarification on the word heal. I like that. I'm going to change my use of the word healing now just because of that. That was good. Thank you so much. So if for anyone in our audience that's tuned in and they believe they may have ADHD, what would you suggest for them to do?
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, start by talking to your general physician or your PCP. If you don't have one, seek out a therapist, talk to the therapist. So just seek out professionals, essentially, and go to them and talk about why you might think you have ADHD. What does it mean to get a diagnosis? Why do you need to have the label? And understand things that, is it indeed ADHD, or are there other things that are contributing to things that look like ADHD?
That's great. And stay off the internet. Stop looking at, what is it again? Dang, I forgot. What's the website I just said earlier that you look up symptoms? WebMD. Thank you. Yes, please stay away from that. We do not endorse WebMD on this show. Oh, man, that's good. We have a few questions left, guys. If you want to chime in with your questions and comments, now is the time. So if we know someone we love, whether a friend or family member that does have ADHD, how can we best support them?
Well, start by listening to them and believing what they're saying.
I like that.
And that is tough to do when people are easy to label somebody lazy. You're not trying hard enough. I don't feel like doing this. Well, just do it. And that seems like an easy answer, but for somebody who has ADHD, that same task feels like as if you're carrying like 50 pounds and then you're trying to go do that thing, and it just feels impossible. It feels easier to just sit here and not do the thing and deal with the consequences than actually attempt to do the thing. So start by believing them, validating them, and then figuring out what they need. A lot of the times it is smaller expectations, smaller chunks of information, repeating appropriate time that you're giving them, which may mean extra time, managing your expectations on what you're getting back and to what degree you're getting back. There's a lot of hyper-focusing and perfectionism that happens with ADHD. So you're probably getting super high quality work, except it's taking the person twice as long to do it because they're just really hyper-focused on that one thing and making sure it's perfect.
Wow.
With that being said, there are a lot of tools out there. And if it is easier to have somebody read a book to you as opposed to sit there and having to read the book, then read the book for your friend.
That's good. That's real good. I feel like it's always real easy to make excuses. And if somebody has, you know, a lot of the things you talked about in this episode, they may somebody may be relating to it, but then say, oh, well, that's not me. That's not me. It doesn't apply. Is there, like, I get it. We should be professionally diagnosed by professionals. But are there any, like, questions someone can ask themselves just to say, like, oh, this might be something I'm dealing with, I should go to a professional?
Well, so I'm going to go back to the executive functioning skills, right? People can have executive dysfunction and not have ADHD. But that would be a good first place to start. Am I the person who just waits to the very, very last minute and then pulls like the all-nighter to turn in the thing at the very last minute? And it takes me a long time to even get started on something. That might be something that you want to pay attention to. Am I a person who has a gigantic emotional response towards something? So like not a lot of people are so affected by this, but you are very affected, or you're the angry person, or you're the person who cries a lot. But that person is also a very super empathetic person. They really feel everything really deeply. So is recognizing those things about yourself. And then, am I prone to missing things? You know, am I like details, forgetting stuff? And again, like I said, we all do these things. So these are some basic things that could be like, well, I have been doing this since I was a kid. I remember my mom just like going after me because I forgot X, Y, and Z, or right, I was the kid who always came home with less stuff than they left the house with. So it's a well-rounded information of making sure you check how you were as a kid, talk to your parents or loved ones, how you were as a teenager, how you were as an adult. So lifespan so far.
Awesome. That's great. So we talked about the assessment for ADHD. What happens if someone does get tested and the test shows that they are, quote unquote, perfectly fine?
Right. They're perfectly fine if they have ADHD as well.
Correct. Yes.
Right. No, there is a lot of, I have a fear that what if I don't have ADHD? I mean, then you got the test and it's telling you that you don't have ADHD. With that being said, you're welcome to repeat the assessment down the line. They're trying to constantly work on different ways to diagnose. There is, I wrote this down so I don't get it wrong, but it's a brain imaging, SPECT, single proton emission computed tomography. There's early research on, right, essentially seeing the stimulation in your brain, how things are reacting. Now, they're not foolproof because, again, there's a lot of bias if there's trauma or depression or anything else that's causing the same responses. But with that being said, I mean, it's fair that, you take an assessment right at some point and you were just not functioning that well because of depression, but you take it again at another point. Those things can be different. However, a lot of those big things that come with ADHD will persist despite the depression going away, despite the anxiety going away. So you have a small possibility of not having ADHD, but that doesn't mean you don't have executive dysfunction.
Mm.
Therefore, I would say seek out an executive functioning coach. They are wonderful people whose entire job is to make sure you do stuff. And maybe that's something that may help you.
Cool. That's a great resource. I didn't even know that was available. It's like somebody there to constantly prod you to get stuff done.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mhm.
That's awesome. Sweet. Well, that's actually all the questions I had on my end. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, absolutely. I am a huge advocate for individuals, period. Individuals with ADHD, most definitely. I specialize in it. If anything, I can get across to the world out there is that ADHD is not an affliction.
Mm.
There is nothing wrong with you. And if I was to give you an example of Apple versus PC, they're both computers, just they have different functions.
It's
They
good.
both do the exact same things. One's not an abnormal computer and one's a normal computer. You just have a different way of functioning. So the analogy, the metaphor that I use with my clients all the time is ADHD is like using right-handed scissors only to realize you're left-handed.
Wow.
You've just never been given the right tools to work with you. And that is the main difference, is we need to figure out what works for you so you succeed.
That was very poetic.
Oh,
Thank you for sharing that.
My
You
pleasure.
some snaps for that one. That was great. No, it did. Seriously, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'm glad you said that too, because that shows that you're passionate about the topic, which is great because, you know, there's a lot of people that don't know what therapists are like. So that's one of the things I love about this show is that they get to see real life therapists and just see that you are a regular person, just like us all. You just happen to specialize in this area of expertise, but you're a real person and clearly you're passionate about the topic. So we're so grateful for that. And thank you for sharing your passion with us. It's awesome. I'm throwing your website up on the screen. So it is fzpsychotherapy.com. Are you accepting new clients?
Very limited. I have a full caseload, but that is not uncommon with a lot of therapists out there, largely due to the pandemic and the increase of TikToks. But with that being said, yes, please still reach out to me. Whenever there's an opening, I'll be more than happy to accommodate you or help find you another therapist, because that is the more important part.
That's awesome. Before we go, I want to note what you just said because I'm curious about it. What do you mean by the increase in TikToks?
A lot of people posting symptomologies on TikToks, and this is why a lot of people have been coming in and being like, I think I have ADHD because I don't have anything else occupying my time. So I'm watching a lot of media out there that is just giving me information. And if you're bored, you're going to do a lot of the things that feel like, oh my gosh, I think I have ADHD.
Wow. That's good to know. Well, it's good for you because then you have more people checking in with you.
Right, exactly. Well, you don't have ADHD, but let's talk about the other stuff.
There you go. Whatever gets them in the door. I love it. I love it. Awesome. Well, yeah, everyone, Fizza's website is there in front of you on the screen. It is fzpsychotherapy.com. Please reach out to her. Like she said, she does have limited room to take on new clients, but she is more than willing to point you in the right direction if she cannot be the one to help you. But yeah, thank you so much for your information. It was wonderful. I'm going to end again with our disclaimer. This show is for informational purposes only. You are completely responsible for what you do with the information presented, and myself and all of our guests cannot be held liable for any misuse or misunderstanding of the information presented. Please always consult a trained mental health professional before making any decisions regarding treatment of yourself and others. Fizza, it was absolutely wonderful having you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and giving us access to your beautiful mind. You are welcome back whenever you want to. If you'd like, I can email you the sign-up sheet for the show. And if you happen to see a topic that you would like to come back to speak about, please feel free to sign up. Also, if there's a topic that you want to talk about that's not listed, just send me an email, let me know, and I'd be happy to add it to the list. But thanks for being here today. We really appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for hosting this and making this available and having more of this out there. Let's change that stigma on mental health and let's normalize it a lot more.
Absolutely. Love it. Thank you, everyone else, for tuning in. We will be back next week and every week, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time with another wonderful guest therapist discussing another therapeutic and mental health topic. So thank you guys for tuning in. Have a nice evening, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Work, watch you do mine.